There we are. So yeah, so as I mentioned, the recording will be available to everybody. The slides will be available after the presentation as well. If you have questions as we're moving through this presentation, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. And there will be times throughout the program where we will pause and ask if there are any questions at that time. If you have a question at that time, you can take yourself off mute and ask your question and we'll address it. Otherwise, just put them in the chat and we'll address them as we go. Okay. Good to see some familiar faces and names here. So welcome back and welcome again. And before we kick things off, I just want the Validation Hub members to go ahead and introduce themselves. So first I'll call on Annika.
Hi everyone, my name is Annika. I'm a senior at GW studying geography and GIS. I've been with the Validation Hub for about a year. And I am going to be one of the people leading the advanced JOSM training today along with my coworker, Joanna. So I guess I'll pass it off to her to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Joanna. I am also a senior at the George Washington University. Have also been working with the Validation Hub for a year, and I'm studying environmental science and geographic information systems. And yeah, I'm excited to lead this training today. Maxwell.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to have you all here. My name is Maxwell Usu. I am in my second year of my graduate studies at the George Washington University. I'm focusing on geospatial data science with the geography department. I have been with the Validation Hub for almost 2 years and happy that you were able to join us for this advanced JOSM training. Pass it to Elodie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elodie. I am in my last year of my undergraduate degree at the George Washington University, and I study geography, GIS, and sustainability. And I have been with the Validation Hub since May, and I'm going to pass it to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm also a senior at the George Washington University, and I've been with the Hub for about a year. I study environmental science and geographic information systems, and I'm going to be answering any questions that you guys have in the chat, so feel free to ask, and I will do my best to help.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Just a quick reminder, please keep yourselves on mute while the presentation is going on so that we can all hear the presentation clearly. And I just put a note in the chat. It'd be great if everybody could say hello and where you were calling in from today. It's always good to see the information about the broad reach we have as a YouthMappers network. Okay, so with that, I'm going to be quiet and pass the reins over to Annika and Joanna for the presentation. And so guys, take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. Let me get this presentation started and we will, we will get started. So again, I am Joanna. I will be doing the first half of this presentation and then Annika will be taking over. We're so excited to lead you through this JOSM training, and we'll be talking through tools and plugins that can make you a more advanced and efficient mapper. So you likely already have the JOSM softwares or have already explored its interface a bit, but we want to do a quick review of the process of connecting JOSM to OSM. Follow along with these tasks if you haven't done them yet. Now is a great time to just square those away. And also keep in mind that the location of certain menu items and the overall appearance or layout is slightly different if you are using a Windows or a Mac operating system. But everything that we're showing here today is available to you regardless of what you are working with. It just may look a little bit different. So once you have downloaded JOSM, you need to sign into your OSM account. This way, all of the data that you create or edit can be attributed to you. So this just entails, you can kind of see it here, but you go to Edit, Preferences. You will then select the connection settings, click Authorize Now, enter your OSM username and password. Hopefully you remember them. And click Authorize Now. And you can see it here, Edit Preferences. That's the connection, is the globe. And then, so after you've authorized, you will accept the access token. And then as we continue, you want to have your preferences window open. So authorize and test or accept, and then we're still working within the preferences window. So next we are going to need to set up remote control. This is making it so that JOSM on our computer and OSM in wherever, Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, whatever you're using, so that those two systems are talking to each other. So again, in the preferences window, you're going to select the remote control settings and then check enable remote control. The remote control setting looks like a little remote control. Enable, click OK, and then again, keep the preferences window open as we go to our last thing we need to do in order to make JOSM work for us the way we want it to. So we also need to download some plugins in order to access the tools that we plan to use today. In the preferences window, you select the plugin icon, which looks like this, the little puzzle piece. And we're going to search buildings and check the box next to building tools. And then we're also going to want to download Utils plugin 2, Mapathoner, and Fast Draw. And then at the bottom, you will select download list and install the plugins. In order for them to work, you may need to close JOSM and open it back up so that everything's up to date and JOSM has everything good to go. So now back to kind of what we are going to focus on today, which is the tools in JOSM that make our lives as mappers much easier. Remember again that ways to access these tools may be a little different depending on whether you're on a Mac or a computer. So we will be addressing all of the tools listed here. We'll be going through them and demoing them in JOSM as well. And if there's anything that at the end of this presentation you feel like I can't remember how to get to create multi-polygon, or just you're not sure how a tool works exactly, this presentation is being recorded, and this presentation will also be made available to you after we are done today. So don't worry if you need to review these tools again, or you want to come back to this to get a little extra practice with them. So now to the actual tools. Unglue and merge. These may be ones you're already, you already know a little bit about or have used, but if not, these are super helpful. So unglue, you activate by clicking G on your keyboard, and this tool will separate connected nodes or ways that share a common node. So this is used when features that shouldn't be connected are connected, like a road and a building sharing nodes, or two buildings sharing nodes, something where you don't want these two features touching. And the tool, it's kind of shown here, it's just taking these two nodes and splitting them apart, so they are no longer connected. Merge, on the other hand, does the opposite, activating it by hitting the M key on your keyboard. You will take two nodes and push them together so that they are connected. In this case, the order of selection matters. So when you click on the two nodes, if I clicked on this one first and then this one, this node would be dragged to here, which we'll show in a moment. And then also the object ID and history of the oldest node is preserved. So that data from whichever was created and saved first is going to be what the nodes hang on to. Next is split way and combine way, which is kind of a more complicated and sometimes more effective way to do what glue and merge can do, or unglue and merge can do. So split way is activated by hitting the P key on your keyboard. And if there is a continuous way and you select a node, it is going to split away at that selected node so that this part and this part would then be two separate ways connected by this node. If it's a single way, you are just going to select whatever node you want to split between the two ways. However, if a node is shared by two or more ways, say at an intersection, you are going to select the node and the way which you want to split. And that way JOSM will know, I don't want to separate all of these at the intersection. I just want to take this way and make it two separate ways. And if this is a closed way, you're going to have to select two nodes in order to separate and use this tool. And again, we will be looking at this in a demo in just a moment. And there's also a knife tool that is within the Auto Tools plugin that can do this function. The next is combine way, activated by hitting the C key, and it does the opposite of split way. It is going to take two ways and bring them into one and connect them into a node. So the order of selection again matters. The first selected way is going to go to the second. And in order to use this tool, you must first make sure the ends of the ways are merged already. So within JOSM, we will go through this. I've just created some examples of these situations in JOSM. Some things on the other parts of the map may look a little different or incorrect, and that is completely part of what I wanted to portray today. So the first example here is, here's two buildings and they're really close together. So maybe the nodes on one of the corners got connected. So in order to disconnect these, because these are two separate buildings, as you can see, they're not supposed to be connected. I'm just going to click on this node and hit G. But I also need to make sure that I move these two apart now, because otherwise JOSM is just seeing two nodes from two different buildings stacked on top of each other. So if I want to move the node of this building, I click on this building and I'll drag it. Oh, well, it can be that one. I'll drag it over here. And then I'll drag it here and I'll hit my Q key to make sure my buildings are square. And that has resolved that issue. Another example may be if a road and a building are connected by a node. Again, this is super easy to do. I was trying to make a service road, which led to this building, and I accidentally connected this building and this road. I go here, click on it, hit the G key, and now I can take that away. And these are separate features, separate nodes. I click on the node and there's no tag associated to either one. And then if I wanted to use merge, a good example is there's just some roadways or highways drawn and they are not connected, but it's pretty obvious that they should be. I'm going to select this node first because I want it to join this node. I want it to join this straight line instead of this node coming up here. So I select this node first, hit Shift, select this node, and now I'm going to hit the M key on my keyboard. And perfect. The way has now been brought to the other way, or the node has been brought to the other node, and my roads are connected, and I will not be getting any errors that say my roadways are not connected. So that is one example of where I could use merge. There are often many scenarios where maybe a polygon that should be closed is opened. You want to merge the nodes together in order to make sure that whatever feature you are trying to represent is represented correctly according to the imagery. Then we have splitway, which I kind of created a few examples here so you can see the different ways that it can work. So here we have a road, and this road has been drawn so that it goes this way, which obviously there are two roads. There's one that goes up and down, and there is one that goes horizontally, but often roadways, these two will have different names. They may be different types of highways, depending if it's a busy street and a residential street. So I'm probably not going to want to have this be one continuous way. So what I'm going to do is select the node where I would want them to split, which in this case, it's pretty clear to me it needs to be split here. So it's just this one node, and I'm going to hit the P key. And now this is one way, and this is another way. So I'm now no longer maybe potentially incorrectly identifying a highway within a task. Additionally, if a node is shared by two ways or more, like at this intersection, but I want this to be separate from this highway, I am going to have to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to select the node and then hit the Shift key, and while I'm holding it down, select this way. Now I'm going to press the P key, and I've now split this way here, but I haven't split this way, and they're all still connected. So I'm able to, if I want to change the tag here and not add, but edit this highway, I can make it a service road. And now this is a service road, and this is a highway, or it's a residential road. And this road has not been changed at all. So this can be really helpful just as you're drawing things and maybe you realized you identified something incorrectly. Instead of having to go back and delete and completely change everything, you can just split the way and do everything right here. And then there's the opposite, which is combine way. So I've created, or wait, sorry, there's one more split way example, and that is here. So I saw that this building has some sort of fencing barrier around it. And so I drew this, but then I realized that it doesn't actually seem like this is part of the fencing. So I'm going to have to split this way or just change it. So the thing is, though, I can't just select this node and hit P. I get this error that says you must select 2 or more nodes in a circular way. So I'm going to select 2 nodes, hit P, and now I can unglue by hitting G and G. And now this is a separate way, and this is the fencing that does appear to be there based on the imagery. And yeah, this is a very common example where I have seen needing to split away in this manner. And it can come up in other examples just where something does not actually need to be connected and closed. So now on to combine way. Here, for example, I have 2 ways that should be connected. This is a continuous roadway, and it doesn't make sense if I just merged them to have it be 2 separate roads because it clearly is one singular road. So in order to do this, I'm going to need to merge these nodes together, and I'm selecting this first node and then going to select this one because I want to bring this way to here. I'm selecting here, hit Shift key, hold down, and hit M for merge. And now I've got my 2 ways. And if I zoom out and look at them, I can see that this way is going in this direction, and this way is going down. So the way that I or some other user has drawn these ways is they are going in different directions. So when I try and combine them, my computer is going to hit me with a question about what I want to do about this. So I will show you. So I've got this way selected. I will select this way and the common node, and I'm going to hit the combine key. So now I get that error I was just talking about, and it's going to ask if I want to reverse and combine these ways in order for them to work well together. So I am just going to hit reverse and combine because I am happy with that. And now that I've hit it, both ways are going in the downward direction, and it is one continuous way. In this example, the direction of the highway doesn't matter particularly because it seems to be a 2-way road, and there's nothing that this will really indicate to us beyond it being a highway. But the direction may be important if you're looking at a waterway, because it does matter what direction waterways are going in, and JOSM does pay attention to that. So here I've got my 2 combined highways, and they're just going this way, and they appear to be the same. Additionally, if I wanted to combine these 2 ways, I can see they're going in the same direction based on this arrow and this arrow. But if I look at them, this is a highway residential value, and this is a highway unclassified. So when I go to connect them, which here I need to merge, oh, whoops, I didn't hit shift, merge, and then I want to combine by hitting C, I get a different type of error. And this one is saying you have 2 objects that are have conflicting tags. And do you want to continue with this? I'm going to say, yes, I do want them to be connected. And then it's going to ask me, which one do you want to choose? In this case, it seems to be a residential road. I'll select residential road here, apply. And now my way is just one highway with a residential tag. Yeah, so those are the first 4 tools. If anyone has any questions, now is a great time to ask, or I will continue back into the presentation and go over a few more tools.
Yeah, if you have any immediate questions, by all means, please speak up or put them in the chat. So far, Joanna, things are great. No questions in the chat quite yet. So things are going
Okay,
well.
great. So back to our slideshow. So the next tool.
Yeah, please, can you come again about how you did the building with walls around it?
Yes, yes. So that was here. Whoops, where did I just go? Okay, so that was here. So in order to split the ways of a closed polygon, which in this case, it was closed, this was here, I'm going to need to select 2 of the nodes to tell JOSM, I want to open up this polygon and make it discontinuous. So I'll do it with 2 more nodes. If I was like, oh, there's actually no wall right here, I was incorrect about that. I'm going to hit Shift and select this node, and I'm going to hit Shift and select this node. And now I'm going to hit my P key. And this is now telling me that this is its own part of the wall, and this is a different part of the wall. So I could either give this a new tag if I thought it was a different kind of barrier, or I could remove it altogether by hitting the unglue G key and then remove this. And then I would obviously have to do something different with these features, but this is the only thing I've indicated is the wall that exists right here. So does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
All right, so I have a question. Please, can you go back to the wall?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So clearly so when I'm done with selecting this one, can I decide to delete the other polygon?
Yes. So one thing, we try not to delete just because like we want to preserve people's work and keep the data that exists alive and whatever other people have contributed. But if I really needed to delete for some reason, I would select this feature and hit FN delete on my keyboard, and now that is gone. But there's a chance I could find another use for that in a different location so that I didn't have to delete it. Like I could find a wall in a different spot and move that. Like here's a wall, I could move that there so that I don't have to delete. So sometimes in order to preserve data, we need to get a little bit creative. But if there's just nothing I can really do with that, yeah, you just hit on your keyboard FN delete. Is that good?
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think I will move on now. So I'll go back to the presentation. So the next tools, the first of which is add nodes at intersections. So this is part of our utils plugin 2 that I mentioned downloading or adding at the beginning of the presentation. And I'll show you, but we'll find this in the more tools section or menu item. This tool will add missing nodes at intersections of selected ways. And basically what that means is instead of us having to create our own nodes and then glue them together, this will do it in one swoop and do it for us. And to do this, we will select both ways and then click on the tool or hit Shift-I on our keyboard. Another cool tool is Create Multi-Polygon. And this will create a multi-polygon from selected ways that are polygons. Basically, what this means is sometimes a building will be a square, but the inside is maybe a little terrace or something. It's a garden, so the building is a rectangle with another rectangle cut out in the middle. So in order to map this easily, and there are other ways, but this is probably the easiest way and the way I know of is to use the Create Multi-Polygon tool, and it will define and add the relations for that inner way, or the inner rectangle and the outer way. And to create this, we will select both of the ways and click Tool or Control B. So to demonstrate this, I have a section. Okay, so this is where I'm going to show to create an intersection. So here, there's two ways, and there it is labeled, so it's hard to see, but they are not connected by any node. But JOSM will be upset with us if they're just overlapping. So instead of me having to create these nodes or drag things around, I can just select this way, Shift, select this way, and then on my keyboard, hit Shift-I, and I have an intersection. And they're connected. I can see that. I can drag this around. Both ways are moving with me, and it works for both ways. This is pretty, like the example is pretty clear to how it can be used. I haven't encountered many other, maybe with waterways, you may need to create an intersection between them, just again, because JOSM doesn't like things being on top of each other without them having a reason or a connection. So this is a very easy tool to take care of that. Then in my chosen imagery, there wasn't a building that exactly had the cutouts that would be useful for the Create Multi-Polygon. So I've just decided to look at this building and pretend like these are two holes in the building. So I need to first use my building tool and create rectangles over what would be an inner way. Now, to use my Create Polygon tool, I am going to select everything, these, and I could hit Control B on my computer, or I believe it's Command B on Mac, or I could go to Tools and hit Create Multi-Polygon. And now I have this building that has these inner ways, and I am demonstrating the true shape of this building instead of just putting an entire building polygon over it. Of course, in this example, again, this building is actually, it doesn't have any holes, but just for the sake of understanding how this can be used and maybe what you might see in imagery, this is the example I'm using. So yeah, and then if I move this building around, it's actually not going to take the inner ways with me. So if I needed to move it, I'd have to select all of the features and move them together. Or if I did want to move them separately, I could just move this one because I thought that should be there. Yeah, so those are those two tools. Are there any questions about those?
Yes, please. I have a question.
Mhm.
All right. So, since can I match the polygon, the multi-polygon all together, the building together, so to avoid, let's say, moving them one by one? Or what I mean is that,
Yes.
for instance, you select. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
You can, I didn't mean to interrupt. But yes, so I hit shift and I'm holding shift down. I've selected all three and now I can take them all together. JOSM may get mad at you because it's like, why are you moving so many nodes? But let's say I really do want to move them. I say, no, that's okay. I move them and now they're there. Did that answer? Okay. So we'll move on if there's nothing else. Back to the presentation. So the next tool I'm discussing is replace geometry. And this can be activated using, oh, is there something?
Yeah, please, I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
And please, with the multi-polygon, are they going to be tagged as different buildings? Like the one you created inside and the larger one, would they be tagged as different separate buildings or be tagged as one?
So by using this tool, JOSM now knows that we are indicating this is a multi-polygon and it's the building with three. So if I click here and it looks at the tags, it says multi-polygon buildings or building 3 members. So it knows that this is an outer part of it. And then this, oops, is an inner part. So it does know that this is one building and it knows that this is an inner part of the building and it knows that this is an outer part.
Oh, thank you.
Just jump in. Yeah. So when you do multi-polygons like that, buildings, it creates what they call a relation with those different entities. So you have essentially 3 different building polygons, quote unquote, but 2 are considered inner polygons. One's considered the outer. So you create this relationship. So it knows to define it as one building, but it actually it's made up of 3 different entities in this example. Yeah.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Okay. So back here. Okay, so back to replace geometry. I'm going to activate this using the Control-Shift-G key, or I will go to more tools. And also, I believe on a Mac, it is Shift and Command plus G. So it's a little bit different, but either way, if you go to more tools, you'll be able to use this plugin. And basically what this tool will do is it will replace the geometry, or yes, replace the geometry of one object for another, while retaining as much of the metadata and history as possible. So there's a poorly drawn way in the OSM database and you want to fix it. There's not really like, there's a lot more nodes than you want, or it just really is not going to be an effective way to fix the building without deleting if you don't just replace the geometry altogether, so that you can preserve the work of another mapper, but not have to then allow poorly drawn data to exist in OSM. So what you will do is draw a new way that is neat and correct and has all the angles that it should, using the Q key for your buildings if they're not square. And then you're going to select both ways and then use the replace geometry tool so that you can remove the old way and transfer the tags and history to the new way. So nothing has been lost. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Could you ask again? I missed the question. Okay. Okay, I'll continue. And if it comes up, just write it in the chat. Great. So basically what this tool does is it's going to give all of the credit of this new building you've drawn to the person who originally drew it so that none of their work is lost and we can continue to expand the OSM community and encourage people to stick with it. And then this is actually a strategy to create more accurate buildings using auxiliary lines, but it is not a specific tool. So, and I'll of course go through this. We're going to draw a line in the protruding parts of a building that we want to be aligned. Then we are going to use these new ways and connect them to corners that we want aligned. And we'll hit the Q key. Once these are aligned, we'll just delete these features that we've just drawn. They don't have any history. They were never meant to be a part of the map. They are just meant to help us. And this is definitely easier to see when I go through it. So, okay. So first I'll look at replace geometry. Okay. So here, this isn't the most pertinent example of where I might need replace geometry, but let's say this is a feature and I just feel like I don't want to have to align it and everything. Instead, I will take it over here and I will draw my building the way I want it to be drawn using my building tool. And I'll hit X, make this part protrude, hit S. And so now I have this new building and this building, but I just want this building drawn here, but I want what all that this one has to offer. So it has these tags, it says building yes and source, this Microsoft building footprints. Somebody may have known that this was relevant. So I'm going to select both buildings, just hitting my shift key, holding down, and I can find this in tools, or more tools, sorry, replace geometry, and I can either activate it on my computer using Shift Command G, or on Windows, a Control Shift G. But here I'm just going to click on the More Tools section. I hit Replace Geometry, and I get this thing that's asking me, are you sure you want to do this? New building you've drawn does not have that Microsoft building footprints tag. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want. I want all of that data to come to my newly drawn building. So I hit yes, and now I have that tag in here. It still says the author is somebody that is not me, and the old building is gone. One thing about this is that JOSM knows how to, it knows that one was older and it was previously saved, and that this one is new and has not yet been, or that the one I had drawn before is new and has not yet been saved. So the order of selection is not relevant in this case, just because it knows which one is old and which one is new. And then kind of moving away from tools for a second, we can look at our mapping strategies. And I've got this building here. And if I look at it, I can see that this part of it seems to be aligned. And so what can I do to make sure that this line and this line are the same? I can come here, hit my A key, and there's a few different lines and ways I could draw this. Right now, I'm just going to put it on all 4 nodes and see how that works for me. So I now have this way. Going to hit the Q key, and it's now completely in line. And I can hit both and hit the Q key, and I now have these ways in line. Clearly, the building needs some editing in terms of its rotation and just the way it is shaped a little bit. But I've created this continuous line that helps me know that these are on the same path. I may be able to do it if I just wanted to do the outside. And then Q, Shift Q. And this like also worked pretty effectively despite I didn't have to select all the nodes. So that kind of is just how you think you'll be able to align this imagery best. Yes, okay, and then I hit Fn delete because that is a way that was never actually meant to be there. It was just meant to help me. Are there any questions on this part? Okay. Oh, never mind. Sorry. What's your question?
I wanted to know if this particular feature or tool is similar to the one you use the queue, the shortcut queue, where it makes the thing, I think, octagonal or something like that.
Sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
Sometimes when you draw buildings, let's say the building has an irregular shape, and maybe you didn't use the building tool or something. So it has this irregular shape, but you want to straighten the sides. There's this, I think Q, you press it on the keyboard or something, and it straightens the sides for you.
Yes,
yeah,
the Q
is what you did. Is what you did similar to that?
Yes, it is very similar. The Q key is going to turn all of this into right angles. And then by drawing that extra line, so again, let's just say this is a little bit out of line. By drawing this and using so I drew the line. It is going to create a straight line. So I hit Q, and now this is the straight line. But of course, the shape doesn't look totally right. So I may need to come here, move it around a little bit so that this can be a straight line. Again, I hit Q on either one or both. If I hit Shift, and now it is a straight line, and the building has all right angles at the corners.
Oh,
Is that okay? Cool. And again, I delete this because I don't need it. I'm not taking away anybody else's work. It just isn't relevant in the actual map. So then here, another strategy for making our lives easier as mappers is
Sorry,
we're going to align. Oh.
Sorry
Mhm.
to interrupt. Yeah, just wanted to find out, I think I missed a part because of network, just the shortcut for combining the building that was done by someone, because what we are doing is avoiding to delete someone's work. So yeah, so the direct combination of the old building into what you just sketched, I didn't get, is it Control Shift what?
So on your computer, it should be either Control Shift G if you have a non-Mac, and on a Mac, it is Shift Command G. But also, if you couldn't remember the exact way of getting there, you could just go to More Tools, and if you have both selected, you can click on Replace Geometry here.
All right, cool, nice.
Yeah, can you replace? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Do you replace geometry? What's the function?
The function is just so that if there's a building that has way too many nodes, it's really out of line. It'll be harder for us to try and make it fit the imagery than it would be to just draw a new building, but we don't want to delete somebody's work. We're going to, we can use replace geometry so that we preserve their work and make our mapping more efficient and more effective. We don't want to be adding a building with that only needs 4 nodes but has 25. So we can then make sure the data quality is at its best, but it's not taking away for whoever created the feature originally.
Joanna, just so you're aware, we've got about 30 minutes left.
Okay, I will go through these. This is the last part for me. So align buildings, we're going to select all these buildings that need to be in line, and then we'll select 2 reference nodes from one of the buildings for alignment. You can see it here, and then hit Q on your keyboard, and they will all be in line with those original 2 nodes. And the last for my part is the validation tool. We have an entire training on validation that will be on April 10th, I believe, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, April 10th. And this will show us errors that we might not be seeing just with our eyes, and it'll categorize them based on priority. So to demonstrate these 2 tools, I will come here, and I want all of these buildings to be in line with this building. So I hit Shift, select them all, hit Shift, and select these 2 nodes, Q, and now they're all in line. I may have to do some editing on what the actual shape of the building is, but they are now in line with this building that I had wanted them to be in line with. And then lastly, I'm going to use my validation tool, which one thing I wanted to mention is if you can't remember where something is up here, you can just hit help and type it in if you can't find it. So validation results, I see it's up here, Windows, and I can click on it. And then to activate it, I hit validation, and I'm going to get so many errors. And yeah, so I have a lot of things going wrong. I can go down. I have an unclosed way, and I'll just right click, zoom to problem, find that, and then do the same thing, go through all the warnings and try and resolve them and make this map as valid as it seems it can be based on what JOSM thinks and what I as a mapper think. Yeah, that's those tools. there's anything.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Maybe Joanna, Annika take over again. We have a few more tools we want to touch on today. So
Yeah, I will
Awesome.
stop sharing now and hand it off to Annika.
thanks very much.
Thank you, Joanna, for getting us started with some tools. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Okay, let me just get to the right. Okay. Jumping ahead there. So Joanna went over some tools found in the JOSM interface. And I am going to go over just some very useful plugins that just make your life in JOSM so much easier. Just a quick review. If you don't know how to download plugins, you just go to the menu under the Edit tab, scroll down to Preferences, and then there will be a whole section where you can search up your plugins and download them. And when I demo in a second, I'll show you guys where that is at. So don't get worried if you don't know how to download the plugins yet, because I will show you. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Mark Scene Viewer. And the goal of Mark Scene is just to kind of show you what you've already looked at on a task. So it will display areas of the map that you've already viewed. This is really useful for validation, or if you just have a task that's really large. I know us at the Validation Hub, we're working on some tasks in Fiji right now, and all of them seem to be really, really big. And it can get really easy to, look at one area and then you see something, across the task, and you're like, oh, let me go fix that real quick. And then you go back and you don't really remember what you've already gone over. So this is just a very useful plugin for solving that confusion. And it'll pop up as a window on the right panel of JOSM, and it'll look like this and display areas that you've already been over with this magenta hue. Once I do the demo in just a couple of slides, it'll make a little bit more sense to you guys how it works, but that is the overall gist of this plugin. All right, and then next we are going to talk about the search function. This is not a plugin, this is just built into the JOSM interface already. But it's super, super useful once you learn how to use it. I will say it's a little bit finicky, and you will probably have to practice a little bit to get good at using it properly. But there's a bunch of resources on the OpenStreetMap wiki and probably through YouthMappers that can help you kind of learn how to use this interface a little bit better. So when you search objects, you're just going to use the key value tags. And that can be, building equals yes. You can search by what type of feature you're looking for. So you can just search all nodes. You can search all ways. You can search features with a specific number of nodes. So if you wanted all buildings that have 4 nodes, you could just type in nodes 4. It would bring all of those up. You can also search by the names of, businesses, highways, anything like that. So to find the search function, you can either open the Edit tab at the very top of your screen and hit search. You can use the shortcut Control F for a Windows or Command F for a Mac. Or you can use the magnifying glass icon that's going to be found at the very top of the JOSM window. So a lot of ways to access this tool, and a lot of ways to use it. You just have to do a little bit of digging to figure out what's going to work best for you. So this is just kind of an example of what it's going to look like once you pull that search box up. Here is where you would type in whatever you're searching for. This is going to show you what it's going to return to you after you enter your search. And then they have some examples here just to kind of help you out. Like I said, the search tool is a little finicky, and it may take a while to get a good grasp of it. So they just have a few examples here of things you can look for to kind of get you started. And you can also always search by a JOSM preset, which is super, super easy. All you have to do is go in here, click it, and then hit show results, and it'll pull it right up for you. And then here are just some examples of phrases or functions that you can type into the search bar. So like I said, if you want a certain type of feature, you can hit type way or type node and it'll select all of that feature. You can search by name. It's important to note here that name with the 2 dots, we'll just search the name lowercase, uppercase, anything with that combination of letters. However, if you use the equal sign, it'll now become case sensitive. So if you're looking for something with this name and you specifically want the H to be uppercase, use the equal sign and it'll take the case into account. If you're searching anything that has a special character, so in this case, the special characters would be like the space in between Baker and street, or the 2 dots in between address and street. If you're searching anything like that, they need to be enclosed into quotation marks, or else JOSM really won't like it and it won't pick back the result that you're hoping for. And then there's just various other examples. So type way, with the dash in the name, it selects all the ways that do not have a name. So it's kind of the inverse of this search function up here. Same with this. So it selects everything except for your current selection. So it inverts whatever search you're doing. You can also, like I said, you can search by the presets found in JOSM. You can search by amount of nodes, or you can search by timestamp and see, if you know that something was edited within a certain time period, or you're checking to see when the last time this section was edited, you can search by timestamp and it'll bring that up for you. All right, and now I'm just going to switch over and show you those 2 in JOSM really quickly because they're just little and quick, and let's go ahead and get those out of the way. So the first one is mark scene. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is show you.
Monica, we can't see your JOSM. Obviously, is the presentation.
Oh no. Okay. Can you guys see it now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is pull up the menu to download plugins. So if you go up to the top right here where it says edit, you can just hit that. Ooh. Scroll all the way down to preferences. And then right here on the side with this little puzzle piece is where your plugins are going to be. So then you can just search your plugins right in here. All the ones that I'm going to talk about today I already have installed. But if you wanted to, for instance, search up mark scene, you just type it in, it's right there. You can select it and just hit download. You can also select multiple plugins at once and hit download the whole list. So you can do a good batch of them all at one time. All right, so to display the mark scene plugin, once you have it successfully downloaded, you're going to go up here to where it says view. And then this little mark scene button will now appear for you. So, let me get this out of the way. So what you're going to do is just hit record scene areas. This is something that I have already enabled. So this is why it's not available for me, but typically you would hit record scene areas. And then if you come down here to your left-hand side, this mark scene icon will pop up. You select that, and then it brings on the right-hand side up this little tab for you. Just make it bigger there. And this is where that magenta hue will show up, and it'll start showing you what you've looked at already. It's important to note that the scale that you're looking at matters. You can change that here with this bar. So if you zoom out all the way and you look at your full task like this, it's not gonna come up and say that you've seen this whole task because it really wants you to get in there and kind of observe it at a level that you can make quality edits and really see what you're looking at. So again, if you want to make this closer, you can scroll this way. If you want to make it farther, you can scroll this way. And when you're not in the right range, there will be an X over this little box here. So once you scroll into the proper scale, then you can see that the magenta will come up, and kind of as we move across this task, this will move with it and it'll show you what you've already looked at. So yeah, super simple plugin, super easy if you're doing a very large task, or if you're doing a task that's very dense and has a lot to get through. It's just a good way to kind of keep track of what you're doing, so you're not going over and editing things that you maybe have already edited. And then really quickly, I'm just going to show you the search function. So the search function can be found right up here. You can also hit Control or Command F to bring it right up. Just like in the slides, this is what our search box looks like. And I'll just type in a few example searches for you guys really quick, so you can kind of see how do you use it. So exactly, if we wanted to find a type of feature, as you can see, I type in type and it's already trying to give me, a preset search for node, but I don't really want to search for nodes. Let's say I want to search for ways. So hit type way, hit enter, and then it'll bring up all the ways present. Just take note that a way is just being designed, is just any feature is being defined as any feature with multiple nodes. So it's bringing up buildings as well as our roadways. Let's say you wanted to search up all of the buildings that have 4 nodes. So what you're going to type in is, see, it's already trying to pre-suggest it for me. So type building nodes 4. And now it's only highlighting buildings that have 4 nodes for us. Or if we wanted to do, say you want any building that's 4, 5, or 6 nodes, you can come in here and say nodes 4 through 6. And then it'll bring up any buildings that have those qualities. One more search that I'll show you guys is just a name search. So say you're looking for a specific road. Because I'm not using an equal sign, I'm using these 2 dots. It will not be case sensitive, but I do need to include the quotation marks because there are spaces in the name that I am searching for. So just keep that in mind. If you're typing in something with a space or a special character, it needs to be in those quotations. Search that up, and then it will just bring features with the name Beaver Creek Road, which is this road right here. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions about these, I'll pause for just a second and allow you to ask. But if not, I will switch back over to the presentation.
Yeah, please, how do you activate the Maxine viewer?
Oh, we'll first go to edit preferences and download the plugin. Once the plugin is downloaded, you just go to this view tab up here and hit the mark scene button. And then click record scene areas. After you click that button, you should be able to find this icon on your left-hand side, and clicking this icon will enable or disable if I can make it big for you. This icon will enable or disable the mark scene pop-up on the right side of your screen. And then from this pop-up, you should be able to move around and get that magenta hue on areas that you've already viewed. Alrighty, I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint really quickly. Okay, so that is mark scene in the search function. Then next, Joanna already touched on this, so I'm not going to demo it. I'm just going to go through the slides really quickly and kind of give a little bit more context. But the concept of relations, so this is any type of object that contains like a group of other objects. So in the case where Joanna was giving us an example, she was making a building with a courtyard. It's the same example that can be seen right here. There are 4 types of relations: multi-polygons, which is what Joanna demoed, and would be like a building with a courtyard, or perhaps a lake, like with a small island in the middle. Anything where one shape is going to be inside of another. You can also do it to create routes, boundaries, or restrictions. You probably won't come across needing to do this often. The most common is definitely going to be creating those multi-polygons. So that's really what you want to know. Just kind of to keep in the back of your mind that these things are also possible with relations. Routes, for example, if you wanted to display like a public bus transit route or maybe like a bike lane, you would use relations to do that. And you do that very similar to the way you do a multi-polygon, where you would just select every segment of what you wanted to combine. In the case of a route, you would be selecting road segments. And then you can just go to the multi-polygon tool and either create a multi-polygon, or in the case of a route, you just select all the road segments and you go to the JOSM presets and you just assign a preset, whether it be public transportation or a bike route or anything to that nature. Again, Joanna already kind of went over this, so I won't demo it in JOSM, but just to give you guys a quick little refresher, you would draw both the exterior and the interior shape that you need for your building and courtyard. Go up to the tools on the top of your menu and just hit create multi-polygon. It will automatically be tagged as a multi-polygon, but you will also need to add in any additional tags such as building equals yes. If you have additional knowledge on the feature that you're mapping, be sure to add those in as well. And this is just kind of an example of what creating a multi-polygon looks like. And kind of the little window pop-up you will get when you're creating the relation. And that is where you can just add your building equals yes tag or any other tags that you might need. And then after you click OK, your building will be created. All right, the next plugin that we're going to jump into is one of my absolute favorites because I think it really makes the mapping process like exponentially easier, speeds it up so much, and that is the Mapathonner plugin. There's a lot of tools within the Mapathonner plugin. They're all listed right here. Basically, the point of this plugin is just to speed up your mapping process by being able to build or map multiple buildings all at once, whether they be circle shaped, orthogonal, so square shaped, or L shaped. And then Mapathonner makes it really easy to double check for mistakes as well, because you're able to select duplicate buildings or buildings that are not squared. And then you can fix those all up at one time instead of having to go through individually and check them. So to find Mapathonner, like I've already stated, this is where you can find and download your plugins. And then after it's installed, it'll be located on the top of your JOSM screen. And then all the tools that are contained within the Mapathonner plugin, there's batch circle buildings. You can draw multiple circular buildings at once. Batch orthogonal, so you can draw multiple square buildings at once. And then batched L-shaped buildings, so you can draw a bunch of L-shaped buildings at once. And I will demo each of these tools in just a moment. For the circle buildings, you're just drawing the diameter. And for the orthogonal and L-shaped buildings, you only have to draw a specific number of nodes. Then you just move on to the next one. And when you hit the create batch button, it'll fill in all the rest of the nodes for you and make nice, clean, closed buildings. And then these tools just kind of help you identify potential issues within your task. So the select duplicate buildings will select any buildings that have overlap. So if there's only one building in the imagery, but for some reason there's two features on the map that are representing it, it'll flag that, and you can either move another one to a different location or recycle that feature in some way, or, you know, push comes to shove, you can delete it. And then select non-orthogonal buildings just helps you find all the buildings that are not squared, and select non-rounded buildings just helps you find any buildings that maybe are supposed to be round, but they're not actually a perfect circle in JOSM's eyes. So, and then I will go ahead and go through this plugin because I believe it's only 1 or 2 slides, and then I will switch to the demo and show you how to use both of these. So the Fast Draw plugin is just something that makes it easier to draw super big, complex shapes. So maybe it's a lake or a water body or a forested area, and it's got, you know, weird angles and weird shapes just going all over the place. And you don't want to take the time to, you know, create 50 nodes and go around the whole perimeter. So Fast Draw is going to solve that issue for you. So you can find it under the mode menu item, which I will display in just a moment. And then to use it, you're just going to hold down the space bar, and then you can just trace around the entire feature really quickly with your mouse, and it'll add in all those nodes for you. And then it'll give you a chance to edit the nodes and get it exactly how you want it before you finalize the feature. So this is kind of an example here. You hit the space bar and you just really quickly trace all around this. Hit enter and it'll turn yellow, and this will allow you to kind of move the nodes around and get it around those features really nice and tightly. And then once you hit enter for the second time, it'll finalize the feature. It'll turn red, and then you can add any necessary tags to it. And also just down here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but to access Fast Draw quickly, the shortcut is just Q, like it would be for squaring a building. All right, and then I'm just going to really quickly show those plugins to you guys. Okay, so let's find a good example area. Okay, I've already downloaded the Mapathoner plugin, so it is located right here at the top of my menu. And here you can see all of those options that we have for the Mapathoner plugin. So first thing I'm going to show you are the batch circle buildings. For those, we'll do these two little silos right here. You just want to start on one end, draw the diameter of the building, and then without even finishing this one, you can just jump right to the next one, draw that diameter as well. And then when you come up here and hit batch circle building, it'll automatically make those circles for you. You can also do it just straight. You don't have to do it at an angle like that. I just kind of find it harder to display when you're doing it in a straight line, which is why I opt for the angle, but just so you know, it can be either way. All right, and then for the batch orthogonal building, for these you are drawing ways with nodes divisible by 3. So you're going to come in and hit 3 corners of your building, jump to the next one, hit those 3 corners, and just continue this throughout the row, however many buildings you need to do. Once you get to the end, just come up here and hit batch orthogonal building, and as you see, it'll fill in all those rectangles nice and straight for you. And when you're using the Mapathoner plugin, these should already be properly rounded. These should already be properly squared. Okay, I'll transition over here and I'll just show you really quickly an L-shaped building. So for these, the natural thought process would be to kind of do outside of the L. So you'd go like here, here, here maybe. JOSM does not like that. It'll give you a weird, crazy error and stretch these ways all over the map. So when you're doing an L building, what you want to do is the 2 points on one end and then cut over and do the 2 points on the other end as well. I know it looks a little funny, but this is how JOSM would like us to do it. And then I'll just do another imaginary one right over here. So you can kind of see the batch feature. And now those are just beautiful L-shaped buildings for us. And then really quickly, let's just see if we have any errors. I don't know if we'll have any duplicate buildings. It's not looking like it. See if we have any non-squared buildings. Ah, yes, there we go. So you see when I hit non-orthogonal, it'll pull up any buildings that should be squared, but they're not. And then you can just hit the Q key and it'll fix all of those in one fell swoop for you. You can also do this with rounded buildings. Just take note here that for the rounded buildings, it is not flagging buildings that are supposed to be square. So don't worry about that, messing up your data. It's only going to flag buildings that it assumes should be round, so they're made in a round shape, but obviously they're not perfectly even. So yeah, I don't think it's going to flag that because it's not tagged as a building. But if it was, it would flag this, and then you could hit the O key and it would make it perfectly circular for you. So that is the Mapathon plugin. Highly recommend. And just really, really quickly, I will show you the Fast Draw plugin with this forested area right here. So Fast Draw is found up here under Mode. You go to Mode if you have the plugin installed, it'll just be down here. You can also just hit Shift F to bring it right up. So now that this is enabled, what you're going to do is just start over here. While holding down spacebar, you're just going to trace over this whole area, which is why it's important to start at the corner, because as soon as you hit trace, it's just going to start drawing. And if you're like way over here somewhere, it'll have a whole string of nodes coming to the area that you want. So make sure you're starting at a good starting point. And I'm just holding down the spacebar and just really quickly, I'm tracing over this whole feature. We'll just cut it off a little bit there and not do the whole thing. But yeah, if you need to back up a node, you can hit backspace and it'll delete it. But once you're finished, you just close it off like that. Hit enter one time, it'll turn yellow, and this will give you the chance to kind of, adjust those nodes the way you want. And then, oh no, I think by clicking out, I might have messed that up a little bit. No fear, worry not. So let's just say this is a forested area. You close it off, hit enter the first time, and it'll kind of show you what you're working with and give you the chance to edit these nodes. Once you're satisfied with it, you can hit enter a second time. And now it is an enclosed feature that you can add tags to. So those are just those two plugins for you guys really quickly. I think when it comes to plugins, that's about all I have to share. But I will just switch back and show you guys. The last few slides in our presentation are just helpful little JOSM shortcuts for you. There's also a collection of useful plugins and other resources just to kind of get you acquainted with using JOSM in a more advanced way, kind of explaining what some of the plugins are, explaining those relations from earlier. And these slides will be shared after the presentation is over, so you guys will have all access to all of these resources. But yeah, thank you so much for joining and listening to me and Joanna share some helpful tools with you. I guess now I will pass it back over to Richard for our closing remarks. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Annika. Thank you, Joanna.
Lisa, I have a question.
Are there any, if there are any quick questions? We're at time right now. It's 11 o'clock here in DC, but we have a couple of, a single quick question, we can manage that, but we do need to move pretty quickly. Was there a question there?
Yes, please. There's a very quick question.
Yeah, Calvin, go ahead.
Yes, please. I don't know if I can be given the chance to share my screen. If that's
we don't
possible.
have time right now, Calvin, today, because we're at time. We have I have another meeting to go to actually. Very soon.
Okay, so all right. So normally when you are mapping routes and when you want to upload, there will be this pop-up as a unnamed with residential.
Hmm?
Yeah,
Yes, I always have that. I always have that pop-up. Although the tag will be highway residential, but then whenever you want to upload, you will see unnamed with.
Yeah, that
That will go ahead, Annika.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Richard. That pop-up is just because JOSM wants you to tell it the actual name of the road. So like when I did the search function earlier and I searched for the road named Beaver Creek Road. That's what unnamed way is meaning. It's just meaning that they know the road is there, they know it's residential, they just don't know the name of it. So this is, unless you have local knowledge of the area and you know the name of that road, this is a pop-up that generally you can ignore. As long as the highway is mapped correctly on the imagery and it's correctly identified as, you know, a highway, a residential highway, a secondary highway, as long as it's got the correct tag, you can generally ignore the unnamed way pop-up unless you have that local knowledge and you can fill that in, but it's not a huge deal if you don't know it, so.
Exactly. Thank you, Anka. Good question. Good question.
All right, so if I get,
Yeah, I just need to clue things up here, I think, because we need to get going. But I do want to say thank you to everybody that come today. I really appreciate you guys showing up and engaging. Lots of good questions there today as well. Thank you again to Joanna and Annika for leading us through this training. Great job. As was mentioned, we will make the slides for this presentation available to everybody, as well as this recording will be made available to everybody in the next, probably later this week or early next week at the latest. We do have another training that was mentioned. We'll actually have a training on validation. So this is where we're going to be using JOSM as a tool for validating features in OSM. And this is in April 10th, I believe. Is that right? I think April 10th at the same time. So it'll be a Monday at 9:30 a.m. for us here in Eastern time zone. I can't recall what time that is, GMT, 1400, 1330. So anyway, I hope to see a number of you then. But until then, I hope you guys get a chance to use the JOSM tool, get some experience with it, learn more with it, and enjoy using it, because it really is a great tool. And the more you use it, the more you'll see that it is a great tool for editing in OSM. It has so many tools. We only touched on a few of them, from a few key ones that we think are kind of vital to getting people up and running and working with JOSM more efficiently. But as you saw, there's like not only a number of tools, but also a number of ways to do the same thing. Much like with any GIS, there are multiple ways to do the same thing, same operation. JOSM is a similar workflow. You do the same type of thing, but a few different ways, depending on what the tool is you prefer to use, the workflow you prefer to use. But with that, I'm going to stop recording. And again, thank you all for coming. And